And we're live. Hi, welcome to the Stonemaier Wednesday live stream. I'm Alex.
And I'm Susannah. Hi.
Hey, and we're here. Jamie is not available this week, so we're jumping in to join him, or to replace him. So, you may, well, you've only seen me on live stream like once before, but I'm in a new place. I have just moved to Minneapolis, and so we have a related question for you first day. So the question is, when you move or visit a new city, what is like one of the things that you love to do?
Do you have an answer for that, Alex?
Well, so for myself, I always like to get to downtown and just like walk around the downtown and just sort of see the architecture.
Nice.
What about you?
Have you gotten to do that?
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah, it's very new, I know.
It is. My furniture is being dropped off downstairs right now. So
yeah, literally right now.
Literally right now.
Such good timing.
So what about you, Susannah?
So my favorite thing to do in a new city is find the thrift stores.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's not always my kid's favorite, but Joe will always join me, which is great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is it like finding the unique thrift stores? Because you can usually find like Goodwills or Value Villages or stuff anywhere.
Right. Yes. It's the slightly off the beaten path ones.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So
good morning, everyone.
Yeah, everyone joining us, feel free to answer that question, or if you have any questions for either of us, feel free to go for it. As far as like Vantage and things like that, Jamie will be back next week with more to more to share. Lots of exciting things. As you can see, Susannah has a copy behind her.
Yes, I have been playing a lot.
All right, let's see. Going through chat. Carlos has a question for me. Also, hi, Carlos. Am I still designing board games? The answer is a little bit, but not as much. I found since I started at Stonemaier, which will be 5 years in a couple of months, what I do with the sort of the logistics and operational side is very similar to a lot of the designing of board game work. So a lot of the times I find that I don't want to do game design after I'm done with work because I've sort of used that part of my brain already. But I'm still doing a little bit, just not as much as I was before. Let's see. It's people saying hi. Hi, Chris. Hi, Mark. Mark asks, what was the question? So the question was, when you move to or when you visit a new city, what is something that you like to do? So if, like for me, I like to go and walk around downtown and see the architecture. Susannah likes to find thrift stores. Like what makes you feel like you've gotten to know a city a little bit? Let's see, Chad says that he moved about 3 years ago and he checked out downtown area and found and walked all of the game stores. The game stores is another good one.
Same for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Susannah, have you visited any new game stores recently?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think that through real quick. No, but I'm going on a road trip in 2 weeks, and I've already scheduled one visit with Millennium Games, which moved from one location. I had visited in Rochester many years ago, and so I'm going to get a tour of the new location, and my husband encouraged me to make a list of all the stores we're going to visit on our trip to New York. So hopefully there'll be some more new ones in there.
That's amazing. I have been to, since I've gotten here, I visited Tower Games, but I have several other game stores on my list to try to visit this weekend.
There are so many.
There are
in that area. It's pretty cool.
Let's see. All right, what else we got? Another, find the restaurants that locals love. Yeah, I love finding restaurants that people recommend. Like you can do the Google stars and things like that, but when it's like when you know someone who loves a restaurant, it's so satisfying to go visit the places they love. Charles says, welcome. Thank you, Charles. I'm excited to be in the Twin Cities. When do they add this XP to YouTube? I don't know. That's probably something you'd have to, I'd recommend Googling it. That's how I would answer that. Josh says that Jamie looks different today. No, he does probably look different today. I don't know what he looks like today, though. Let's see. We got here. Mark also saying whenever he visits a new city, he looks for restaurants and cafes, and also internationally board game stores.
Speaking of restaurants in new cities, you found a fabulous restaurant in Essen, and now you go back every year and you take us. So how did you find that one?
So so on at Essen, Sunday night, our team and the Inside Up Games team goes to a restaurant called Odysseia, which is a Greek restaurant, and found that because one Sunday we tried to go to, the first time we tried to go to a different restaurant and the other restaurant was closed. And so we were like, okay, what's closed?
Nice.
And we found this restaurant and it was amazing. And so it's just become a regular thing. We go back every year. When we go for 1 year, we then schedule and reserve our space for the following year. So It's just a tradition at this point.
Yes.
Let's see. Kerf says we need some art on the walls. I absolutely agree. I do have some art that is currently being delivered with my furniture. So I'm excited to put some stuff on my walls. Hopefully I'm not too echoey. I tried to put some blankets down to make it a little bit less of an echo, but I am in a empty room with a lot of very white walls right now. Let's see. If Jeeper says it's fun to walk the skywalks and tunnels in downtown Minneapolis, I need to check that out. I have not been to the tunnels. I've visited Minneapolis before and walked the streets, but I haven't done any of the below. Chad asks, are we looking forward to the Arizona trip? I don't know, Susannah, are you looking forward to Arizona?
Very much. And I thought it was so clever of Jamie to take our desire for winter and mountains and translate it into Arizona, because it absolutely fits the bill. I've never been to Arizona, been to Utah, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico. So, and yeah, I think it'll be amazing to all be in the same place. We just got to meet Christine in person last week. So Christine's our graphic designer and is instrumental to every single project that happens. And none of us had ever met her except for Jamie. So that was awesome. And I look forward to more moments like that where you're just face to face with all these wonderful people.
Yeah, absolutely the same here. I'm just really looking forward to the team all being together and having a few days where we're just focused, sort of not that we won't be doing work on our computers, but just focused on each other as a team. I think that'll be really good for us.
Agreed.
Let's see. Chris asks, will Vantage be difficult to purchase at Gen Con if I wait till then to purchase? My answer is going to be, I don't know. We will have a decent number of copies for Gen Con. The plan is to have 1,000 copies there. But I don't know what the demand will be at Gen Con. So you're probably okay, but you'd probably want to go first thing in the morning when you get there just to make sure would be my answer. Let's see. Ashy Feet says happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you, Ashy Feet. Corel says good afternoon from Europe.
I should say Corel is also becoming instrumental to our graphic design team, really which is awesome. I love working with Corel, and he is kind of a wizard. So it's pretty cool.
Also, he always brings chocolates to Essen, and so we love him.
Yes.
Let's see. Anthony says he looks for the closet supermarkets.
Or closest.
Maybe the closest. Yeah, closest supermarkets makes sense. Merlin's Manor says they're about to undergo their first move since becoming board gamers. So this time around, you'll definitely be checking out the local board game stores. Typically, I don't do a whole lot though. Yeah, that's completely fair. I'm definitely feeling it's just going to take time to get organized and get sorted in my own house. So I kind of have to remind myself to go out. I have a plan to go to the St. Paul's Farmers Market this Saturday with friends, which I think will be good for me.
Yeah.
Here's a good question. Chad asked, how busy does each of our jobs get when a new game like Vantage is about to drop? Susannah, how busy does your job get?
I don't know how to quantify it, but it certainly feels busy because there's a lot of pre-preparation, right, to make sure that launch day and pre-order day for retailers goes smoothly. Not to say there aren't hiccups, there are. But getting all our ducks in a row is really important, and it takes up a big part of my brain. I anticipate being extremely busy the middle 3 days of next week, as pre-orders go live on Wednesday, and then people are needing help. And so then it'll just be a few weeks until brick and mortar release, and I'll probably stay pretty busy, but I do have leeway to go on vacation in that window as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say most of my work happens leading up to it too. So my process with a game tends to start when we have a concept, like we have the game design and development is finishing up, and I need to go then have conversations with distributors and like look at the product and try to predict what our forecast for how many copies we're going to print is going to be needed. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it's figuring out the logistics of what's shipping where, getting orders from distributors. And that leads up to launch. By the time we get to launch, everything's shipped, everything is like arriving. So like leading up to launch, I'm still managing the shipments arriving and making sure everything is hopefully happening like it should. But then the launch day, most of my job is just answering, like if anyone has any last minute questions, answering those things. But then also the rest of our team tends to be really busy directly answering people. So I end up being kind of a backup person. So it's actually actual launch day is a quieter day for me. Yep. I just sort of watch things happen and am available as needed.
Yeah. And launch day is thanks to all the work you've done for months.
That we've all done for months.
That's true.
Merlin's Manor says that the place they're moving back to now is somewhere that I used to live in. I'd be curious, how long ago did you live there? Like, I have not moved back to a place, but I've like visited the town I grew up in. And now that it's been about 20 years, 18 years since I've lived there, it's so different. Like all the game stores that were there when I was a kid aren't there anymore, things like that. So do you feel like it's going to be pretty similar? Or do you think it's going to be feel like a different town? Kerf, so I can find decent delis. That sounds like a great idea to me. Anywhere where I can find local food that's amazing is going to be exciting for me. Mark wants to know, do we play digital games too? What are our faves? Susannah, what is your favorite digital game of all time?
Stardew Valley. I kind of fell down that rabbit hole this year thanks to my 13-year-old daughter. She said, Mom, I think you might like this game. You should just, join my world. And I was like, I'm not going to like this video game. I don't like video games. I was very anti, and which has to do with many, many things. But she was so right. And I have humbly asked her to forgive me for my poo-pooing of this game, because now I have hundreds of hours and it brings me so much joy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
How about you, Alex?
So I've played a decent number of video games. Mostly I like RPGs. I love stories in my games. I love stories and everything, but in my games, my video games. Probably my favorite video game of all time is the Mass Effect trilogy. But currently I'm playing through Persona 5 and I'm really enjoying it. It has a lot of heavy content to it, but it's really good story. Chad wants to know, where am I moving from, and have I ever lived in a cold region like Minnesota? So, Chad, most recently I lived in St. Louis for 14 years. So I would say St. Louis has had exactly one proper winter in those 14 years, and that was last winter.
There's some truth to that.
I grew up in Eastern Washington State, so a very similar cold region. So you get away from Seattle, and it's more of a like a high desert, and so you have a lot of what I was used to is it snows around Thanksgiving, and that snow stays on the ground until March. So that is my expectation. I'm excited for it to be, a little bit colder here in the winter, and the summer.
Right.
Anthony wants to know what our favorite aspect of Vantage is thus far. Susannah, you're going to have a better answer for this. So I have played Vantage twice. Susannah has played it more than twice. My copy did just arrive this morning.
Yay!
So it is still in a box. So I'm excited to play it more. But I love the element of discovery. I love the idea that you can just go discover things, which is a very broad answer, but that is because I really need to delve into the game more to have a better answer. What about you, Susannah?
I don't think there's a better answer, honestly, because discovery is the core of the game, and it's very satisfying. It doesn't get boring to discover things. It doesn't get boring to explore. I've played it 6 times with a physical copy, and I have personally been on one repeat location, and I know my husband has been at one place that I've been, but so we haven't seen most of it, and you don't see the same places again and again. So it's fabulous. But like tied to that is the art. Yeah, I think the art is incredible.
And that makes sense. It is gorgeous. At least the bits I've seen. I have once again not seen most of it.
There's been kind of a tension for me because I've been helping localization partners along with Corel as they're working on this project, and I can look at the files, but do I want to? Like, I want to discover this world. So I've had to look through some things, and I certainly know spoilers from the playtesting side of it, but there's still so much to see. So much.
Yeah, that's really exciting. As soon as I have a table, I will get it to the table.
Yes.
Mark says that it's crazy when you first move into some place, the echo makes it seem massive, and then you move a single couch and you already start to negotiate with yourself. I could use this as a bed and a table. Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I'm moving from a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom to a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom. So it's roughly the same size, but it's always a different size, right? The living room is bigger than my old place, but one of the bedrooms is much smaller. And so they're definitely in my head. I'm already like, okay, how do I arrange the furniture? How do I make it fit? Even though I don't have that much stuff. Corel creates amazing rolling realms too. He absolutely does.
Absolutely.
Caitlin says that your friends will remind you to go outside. That's true. Hi, Caitlin. Caitlin is a local friend here.
Yay.
Kirk says graphic design is difficult for a layperson. My hat's off to the great graphic designers. Absolutely agreed.
Yep.
And there's so much more that goes into the back end that we don't even see.
Yep.
Let's see. Mega Blue says, sure you will enjoy Arizona. Went there for a work conference a few years ago and loved it. Also, good to see you again, Susannah. This is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Tim has a question. Does it look like Vantage is arriving in a favorable tariff window? So Tim, the answer is Vantage is arriving in with a 30% tariff. So as you've implied, it's not favorable, but it's definitely better than 145% tariff. Varus is excited for Vantage. So are we. Good morning to George.
Hi, Varys. I have played games with Varys in real life.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Uh,
and his family.
Nice. Chris says, Susannah, what are the biggest challenges related to working with retailers? How difficult is it to get a retailer to give a game a chance when, imagine, the buyers in charge aren't board gamers?
Oh, interesting. To the second point, I think retailers are trying to supply that side of their business with gamers. I think they want to have knowledgeable staff who can, buy and promote games that they know something about. One thing we try to do to help that is, we have a demo program and retailers can sign up and get reduced price copies. So that can help them learn more if that's not necessarily their wheelhouse. Biggest challenges. Alex, feel free to prompt me if I'm taking too long, because I'm not thinking of a huge challenge right now, but you can probably remind me.
Well, why don't you think about that for a second? Because the other answer, so the game buyers, like you said, I think most of the time they actually are gamers. They do know games. The exceptions might be more in kind of a mass market, right? So if you're talking about somewhere like Target or Walmart, then the buyer is a lot less likely to be a gamer. And those interactions become a lot more businessy, talking about what product will move, what are margins, why should they sell a game that's as expensive as Wingspan? Will it actually sell? Things like that. So very different conversations than when you're talking about like a hobby game store.
Yeah, having thought for a second, thanks, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges, now I have not worked at a different board game company, so I don't know what this is like relative to other companies. But Stonemaier has a really specific launch protocol and timeline. And I think because we are a little bit different than many companies, either crowdfunded games or some other companies, we can sometimes have a hard time getting that timeline and that protocol to stick in retailers' minds. So just to give you the picture, we have a launch for customers on our web store, and at the same time, retailers can place their pre-orders. But Champion and then customer orders are going to ship within a 3-week window. And then after that, we're going to start shipping retail copies and have an early brick and mortar launch and then a global / online launch or release. So creating the world where that is the standard and having people be comfortable with that, I feel like I'm often repeating those details because it's so different from other companies.
Mm-hmm. Well, and retailers just have a lot going on, right? Where, we may be a decently big piece of like the board game pie, but they're also dealing with miniature games, RPGs, trading card games.
I don't remember the stat, but the number of emails a retailer receives a day is off the charts in terms of marketing emails.
Right.
So for them to have to sift through all that, like I have a lot of sympathy. I'm not saying they should remember, but they're dealing with so much information. Yeah.
Allison says, good morning. Hi, Allison.
Hi, Allison. Happy belated birthday.
Yes. Happy belated birthday, Allison. Then Merlin's Manor says it was 2012. So that'd be 13 years moving back to Montgomery, Alabama from Jacksonville, Florida. So yeah, I'll be really curious to I'd be very curious to know how much has changed for you over the 13 years. Oh, and Allison says the boys got her into Stardew Valley because of her love of Harvest Moon as a kid. Susannah, have you touched Harvest Moon at all?
Nope. Mm-mm. This is my first cozy farming game.
Amazing.
And last, presumably. That's all I need.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Merlin's Manor says it's been playing a digital implementation of Ark Nova lately. enjoying the challenge mode that it adds. Also enjoying Wingspan Digital for a while, every time a new DLC is released, which the Wingspan Asia DLC just released.
And I've played a couple games with the duet mode. It's so well done. It's wonderful.
Yeah, Monster Couch does a really good job of their implementations. Yep. So the digital implementation of Arc Nova, is that, so I've played it a bunch on BGA. Our coworker Erica, it's her favorite game, so I've been playing some with her. Is this a different digital implementation? Then Chad says, if each of you were on the Vantage space crew, what would your color be? So reminder, blue is move, purple is look, orange is engage, green is help, yellow is take, and red is overpower.
What do you think, Alex?
That's a good question. My instinct is orange.
Me too. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me for either of us.
Yeah, I mean, we're people who like engaging with other people and interacting and all of that. Yeah, but as we know, Jamie always takes red, so Jamie is obviously overpowered.
Clearly.
Let's see. Carly says, good morning. Carly Troxley.
Carly.
Let's see. Here's a question. Varys asks, does Vantage story exploration feel similar to Above and Below? Susannah, you've played it?
I've played it once at Geekway a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yes and no. Okay, from what I remember, the exploration only happens when you go underground, when you're going below. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't feel similar in that you're not doing it all the time like you are in Vantage. Mm-hmm. But I actually don't really remember the content, so I can't say.
Yeah, so I've played more Above and Below than Susannah, and Above and Below, the story content is really charming and beautiful in a lot of ways, but it is more random. You're drawing a card and you're kind of seeing, what story do I get? And there's a little bit of that in Vantage, but and maybe that feels more like the first play of Vantage, where you're like, I'm on this planet, I know nothing, I'm just going to go interact with things and see what happens. But from what I've seen, and Susannah, tell me if I'm wrong, but as Vantage, you start to know things, right? There start to be patterns and things you can predict somewhat of, not necessarily what's going to happen, but what you're looking for, what you're interacting with. Mm-hmm.
It's a coherent, logical system, and you can learn from game to game.
Mm-hmm. So there's more intentionality in the exploration in Vantage versus. But then the other thing Above and Below has is it's got its worker placement Euro game element that is a little bit of a different focus than Vantage, where Vantage is completely on the exploration. Mm-hmm. Let's see, Merlin's Manor says the digital Arc Nova just had its full release a couple weeks ago on Steam. Good to know.
Yeah.
You definitely have to look at that. We are, I think, really the entire Stonemaier team, we're all kind of Arc Nova fans, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, so. Let's see. Aaron wants to know, how long have your games been so far? Susannah, I'm thinking this is Vantage, so why don't you answer that?
Let's see. The Geekway game I played with, I think we had 5, was 4 hours. Now that's in a convention setting where it's very loud, but that might be something you could encounter, a 4-hour game with 5 people if you all want to keep playing, which we did. My games with my husband have been 2 hours. One of them we had an epic victory, one of them we had a mission victory. And my solo games, frankly, I have tried to make them as long as possible because I love it. So I will often start at the highest stat number, so you can start at 6, which might be cautious, and that allows you to play longer.
So how long have the solo games been?
2 hours.
Okay.
Maybe? Yeah.
So you definitely
you could play a solo game in an hour. Mm-hmm. I would start on 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm. So you're definitely seeing shorter games with a lower player count.
Definitely.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Carell once says, you cannot possibly remember all the Vantage variety. I mean, I have spent quite some time focused on every single card during graphic design, and I still have many wow moments during play. So there you go.
100%.
Yeah.
How many times have you played Corel?
And then Alex says, hello, serious question. When will we have content in Spanish for the entire Hispanic community? Jamie Stonemaier asked for ideas for improvement, and there goes one, open casting to have a communicator in Spanish. So that's something we're not going to be able to directly answer ourselves. That would be maybe a good question to come back to Jamie with next week. And Alex, just to make sure we understand, you're saying actual blog content, live casting content, specifically coming from Stonemaier Games in Spanish. Is that correct? Then Carly asked, any fun projects on the horizon you all can taunt us with? So Vantage is technically still on the horizon, but we also have Wormspan expansion coming later this year. That's very, very exciting. At least I'm very excited for it. Wormspan is probably my favorite Stonemaier game right now. We'll see after I play Vantage a couple more times what happens there. Susannah, anything else that comes to mind?
I don't think anything we can talk about.
Yeah, but there's stuff. There's next year will be very exciting. There's a game that's coming out next year that I'm really excited for that I don't think we can talk about yet.
Correct.
So there's something to taunt you with. Chris, happy to answer questions. Susannah, have you played the Stardew Valley board game?
No, I've heard it's really hard.
Yeah, it's. I know it's very popular. I have not played it either, but hard specifically, it's just it's a co-op game, right?
Maybe because the missions, you have two things you have to achieve, and they can be somewhat, they don't jive well together. So yeah, that's again just what I've read or heard, not from experience.
You just have to be more efficient with your farming.
I am the least efficient farmer. Just like my real life gardening. It's all about beauty and chaos.
But you get it done. You make it happen.
I do. Saturn wants to say hi.
Hello, Saturn.
Well, she wants to lie down.
Yeah. Jay Zargo says their boyfriend and they love revisiting duet mode in digital. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Said Monster Couch does such a good job. Yeah. Chad says it's their headcanon that Jamie is the traveler since they are always wearing red. Yeah, maybe. Merlin's Manor, more about Arc Nova. The new Arc Nova digital implementation is similar to the type of digital implementation of Wingspan. Direwolf did it. That makes sense. Direwolf did a good job. And yeah, I think we're sold. I don't know what royalty you're getting Merlin's Manor, but it's working. Let's see. Chris asks, is it possible in any way that in Vantage 2 players can converge in the same location? Their choices and actions take them to the same location card.
Certainly possible. And you have opportunities to learn a little bit more about where you are, and you are communicating, but it can't be there isn't a sequence of steps you can take that is obvious to do that.
And when that does happen, you share the location card, but a location can only have one action chosen from it per game, right? So once one person has done it, the other person, if you're in the same place, you just have to move on, essentially. So possible, but it's not generally advantageous to do so. Right.
It might be a fun moment for the story.
Yeah.
But you're probably not going to want to move, together. And I guess you wouldn't anyway because of
Right. So if you both moved, then one person would interact with the location, the other person would have to move on.
Exactly.
I suppose you could leapfrog together, but basically you're just getting half as many actions walking together.
Yep. Divide and conquer.
Yes. Luckily, there's great communicators in your helmets, or whatever your form. You have great communicators, whatever format you take.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mark asks, given your plays of Vantage, would you like to live on the world of Vantage? So if that existed in real life, Susannah, would you want to live there?
No. It's an alien planet. Like, it's not hospitable to humans. Like, we can make a good we can make some inroads, but ultimately it rejects getting too comfortable.
Would you want to take a vacation there?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, things are weird and beautiful and epic, and it's sort of like I would want to go visit Middle Earth, or I would want to go visit just beautiful, incredible, fully formed places that I then don't have to stay in.
Like I want to go see the epic geography. I want to go, see whatever ruins, whatever floating, floating rocks and all those cool things.
Oh yeah.
But at the end of the day, living somewhere, you want somewhere that's comfortable and safe.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Chad says, I also noticed that Biddy and Walter are in the cockpit on the back of the rulebook. It's also my headcanon that one of them knocked a glass of water off a shelf to cause the ship to crash land.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%. I love that. And then they're just like licking their paws, like, what's up, guys?
Yeah, because it was somehow off the shelf into the control panel, which the water short-circuited everything because for some reason it wasn't well maintained.
Yep.
Yeah. And anything to get to the planet.
Yes.
Tim wants to know, are the shipments on track to be at the distribution centers for the July 9th target? To the best of our knowledge, yes. One of the great fun things of shipping is you have no control of it. Even the shipping ocean freight logistics company we work with, at some point they have no control over it. They can just, they're managing all the communication, but at the end of the day, you're using, these giant shipping companies for the boats, and then like in the U.S. and Canada, it arrives at port, then it has to get on a train, and then you're dealing with the train companies, and then even when it gets off the train, gets to our fulfillment center in St. Louis, then a trucking company has to again go pick it up from there and bring it to the warehouse. So there's all these different bits and pieces, and so to the best of our knowledge, that is all going smoothly, but you never know when a hiccup is going to happen. So, I would always love a multi-week buffer. Like I would love everything to have been in the warehouse in the middle of June or something like that. But that's not how real life works. So we should be good, but I cannot give 100% promise. Let's see. Merlin's Manor says, I think it's strange that a second person coming to a location wouldn't be able to take their one action at the location as well. I feel like Jamie is technically the one to answer this, so I'm answering this as essentially as a player and someone with limited gameplay experience. But my take on it would be the actions of a location can contradict each other because you're interacting with that location and something might change. So, for example, one action might be to attack something, and another action might have a peaceful interaction with them. So if the first person goes and attacks something, it doesn't really make sense to be able to go back and have a peaceful interaction with them. So that is why, for me, it wouldn't make sense that you could both interact there. Susannah, does that sound right?
That sounds exactly right.
Cool. Erica, our coworker, is jumping in. What are your current favorite board games or top 3 games? Susannah, I know what your favorite is right now.
Yeah, let's just take Vantage and like put it at like hyper one. It's just like permanent one for a long time.
Okay.
But other games that I've really loved playing right now are World Wonders. Is it Arcane Wonders that made that? With the little building, wonder minis that are made of wood, and it's polyomino tile laying city building, which is very much my jam. And then Diatoms, which is here, which is also tile laying, and it's about microscopic algae, and people in the Victorian era used to arrange this algae on slides in microscopes. So your player board is a microscope slide, and you're arranging all these multicolor algae tokens, and it's very nerdy, and I love it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And honestly, I still get Finspan to the table a lot. So those are my 3 right now.
That's fair. Something about traveling and moving. I have not been playing a ton of board games. My go-to number 1 answer is generally Star Wars Rebellion. That is my favorite board game, but also I have not played it in probably 6 months. So more recent favorite board games. I think Vantage has a lot of potential, but I'm not going to say it because I feel like I haven't played it properly yet. I would say Arc Nova. I've been playing a ton of Arc Nova online with Erica. I would say, you know what? I got to play Fate of the Fellowship a few times, and I really like it.
Cool.
So just for things I've been playing recently and played multiple times by choice, that would be one of them. I personally think it's the best implementation the pandemic system has had. And it's very thematic, which you might not expect well, it's the same sort of thing you'd say with like Finspan or Wormspan, right? Where it's a re-implementation of the system, but the work was all put in to make it feel very, very thematic to the setting.
Very cool.
And the other answer is probably going to be Wormspan. Wormspan is my favorite of the Span games personally. And so I will consistently love that game. Let's see. Wendy said hello to Saturn.
She would say hi, but she jumped off to chase something that is moving.
We were less interesting, apparently.
Yes.
Let's see. Ruby says it's easy to house rule an easier mode in Stardew Valley, such a cozy co-op.
Sweet. Well, I'll look into it.
Yeah, that's good to know. Let's see. Dave says recently got into board games again, not played them since the 70s. Welcome back, Dave. And picked up Wormspan the other day. Any tips before I try my first play, please? Will be solo. Nice. Dave, my first tip was going to be don't play it 5 players the first time. So solo. Yes. It's the longest of the 3 games, and most of our games get faster the more you play them because everyone just knows the rules, but the higher player counts just take more time. So solo should be fine. Chase the combos, I guess would be my biggest thing. Is if it looks like a fun combo, don't worry about how it's going to work out. Just chase it and see what happens.
That's great advice, because the combos are so fun.
Yeah. I
would say if you don't know that the Stonemaier Discord exists, people are very responsive there if you have a rules question.
That's a great idea. Oh, the other thing would be, of the 3 games, Wormspan is the easiest one to actually just completely fill your board with dragons. So it's not always worth it just to play more dragons because you can. Sometimes it's worth it to pay more for the bigger one.
Yes.
Let's see. Chad says Star Wars Rebellion is so good. I 100% agree. Ivan says usually against integrating phone apps into board games, but in this case, I think Vantage would greatly benefit from an app that guides you through all the locations. Instead of players looking into the rulebook for information, it's instantly available. Plus, they can be animated, which is not a big deal with today's technology. What do we think? Just removing that because it's a big chunk of text for our faces. Susannah, do you have thoughts?
I enjoy the analog process of it doesn't take very long. It's not like the immediacy of an app would shave so much time off, but I appreciate having a little breathing room at the table, the time to just look. And you're involving other people. So, okay, when you're at a location, obviously no one else can see it. That's a huge rule. But the description and the discussion of what you might be able to do can be really engaging. And when I played that 5-player game at Geekway, it felt like I got to see in my mind's eye like 4 other sort of little movies that were playing out whenever it got to someone's turn. And having the books invests you in that experience. If you were just listening to an app, I just feel like it would be a little bit less, you might not care as much, but since like you're helping each other, it's just fun to be flipping through those books and reading, and kind of, you get to see the cost before they do. It's like millisecond, right? Before you say it, but it's kind of like, oh, that's a 6 cost, tame or whatever. And it's just fun to know and to be part of that.
Yeah. What I say so in board games, I believe that apps always have to justify themselves. Apps are very expensive to make, and they also, as Susannah said, they're taking you away from the table. So I do believe there's games where the apps are justified, and they do a good job, but it's then also on the app to make itself go away as much as possible. So I would think of like Mansions of Madness 2nd edition. The app tells you how to set up, and the app lets you have lots and lots of variety in replaying the same scenarios in different ways. And so I think that's valuable. But the challenge is, how much are you playing the game on the app versus how much are you playing it at the table? And if possible, I'd rather play the game at the table. And I think that's Mansions of Madness to me is a great example of an app that does well. But it's almost impossible to play at a convention, for example, because it's loud and you have to listen to the app and look at the app and keep people's attention when someone's on a screen. So I would also say, for me, an app really decreases the number of players you want to have. Like, I wouldn't want more than, say, 3 with an app, versus at the table you can go to 4 to 5 comfortably. Everyone gets to be engaged and present. Let's see. Merlin's Manor agrees chasing combos in Wormspan is a great idea. Rick says, Rochester, New York, my former homestead.
We just passed through. We have a 17-hour drive from here to way upstate New York, so it's just one of many stops.
Dave says, thanks for the reply and tips on Wormspan. Sure. Happy to answer. But I will also say there are probably much better players of Wormspan on the Discord than either of us. Secret is working in a company does not necessarily mean you're the experts on playing the game.
Yep.
Even
that's certainly true for me in Scythe. I've played Scythe once. I want to play it more, but I just haven't had the chance.
That's fair. I mean, I would say even like designing a game, right? Like, designers are often not the best players at their own games. So
interesting.
Yeah, they may know the games, they may know the rules, but they interact with the game in a very different way than like someone who's really focused on just figuring out the strategy and winning.
Yep.
Merlin's Manor mentions another suggestion for Wormspan. Gaining extra coins is super powerful. Sometimes saving a coin for the next round can be a good strategy if the options are not looking great at the end of the round. That's a great idea. I don't think I've ever saved a coin. I'm too greedy. I want to do all the things. Let's see. Stephen asks, would either of us try 3 starting resource difficulty for Vantage? Also played Wormspan at 2 last night and won by a single point. Congratulations on that win. That sounds like a good game. Susannah, would you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll be a slightly shorter game. But it can be a great way to launch into the game and learn some mechanisms and then come back and, have that information without spending more than 2 hours. It would not be a 2-hour game starting at 3.
That makes sense. Would you say at a higher player count, like would you do a 5-player game, would you feel comfortable starting at 3 to keep the game from going as long?
That could work. Yeah, I think, and people can start at different levels. So it just depends on how daring you are particularly feeling.
Fair enough. All right, Erica asks, are there any Gen Con releases that you were looking forward to? Susannah, do you know anything Gen Con related?
I haven't been tracking Gen Con.
Yeah, Vantage. Technically,
Well, for sure.
right, like it is. Gen Con release is a funny window sometimes, right? So like Vantage, we have the launch next week, then Gen Con, and then the retail release will be after Gen Con. So when is the exact release date? I'm saying yes, it's a Gen Con release, so I'm excited for it. But I think Fate of the Fellowship was a Gen Con release, and so I already have it and like it, but that's one I'd point to as saying I thought it was really good.
Maybe open it up to chat too. Like,
yeah,
give us some hot games that we should have our eyes on.
Yeah, I am definitely open to recommendations.
Yeah, I won't be going to Gen Con this year, but Alex will be, and
yeah. All right, I think we've actually caught up at the end of chat, so
Great.
Gonna give people a few minutes to give us their Gen Con release suggestions if anyone has any. But Susannah, are there any games in general that you're excited to get to the table other than Vantage in the next month or so?
You know, I haven't played Let's Go to Japan in a hot minute, and I love that game, so I should prioritize that. Yeah. And my real goal is to get my kids to play Vantage. They are skeptical. They have pulled back from playing board games with me, but I think it could be a really cool one to kind of give them a new experience and surprise them a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Man, Let's Go to Japan. That sounds like a good one.
How about you?
Well, okay.
Once you get everything unpacked.
Well, get everything unpacked, but I'm going to cheat. It's not technically, well, it is a tabletop game. The next set for Star Wars Unlimited launched this weekend, so I'm going to go do a pre-release event for that. So I'm excited for that.
Is that local?
I mean, yeah, there's ones everywhere, but there's that is specifically there's actually like probably 10 or 15 different events for it in the Twin Cities this weekend.
Nice. So will those cards be at play at the championship?
They will.
Okay, so you have to kind of build a deck in the next couple weeks.
Right, like I think they do it on purpose because they want when you have like a set that's been released for a long time, everyone's kind of fallen into this is what the normal like meta play is. But when it's where people are still figuring stuff out, so that's more exciting for like a big tournament.
Oh yeah. Do you want to tell everyone about that trip?
Oh, sure. So the weekend before Gen Con, I'm going to the Star Wars Unlimited Galactic Championship is what they call it. I won a tournament and therefore have a day one buy for it. So
yeah,
I figured why not go have fun. So
cool.
That is.
And what do you use for your counters, Alex?
Oh. Yes, I use the Vantage coins. I use as my damage counters for the game because they're nice and sci-fi and they feel like credits.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, a couple more things.
Okay.
Merlin's Manor says, going back to Wormspan, it doesn't often save a coin, but one time it would be good is if you need to gain cards, but there are not any cards that seem good for what you're building. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm not great at Wormspan, so I will often end the round with a coin because it's like I've kind of backed myself into a corner and I can't do anything.
That's fair.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Zoc Toll says, not sure if it's a Gen Con release, but the Knizia Hobbit game is something I look forward to. Also, hello back.
Hello, Christoph. Looking forward to seeing you at Essen.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen ads. I think I've seen Facebook ads for the Hobbit game, but I haven't actually looked at it. It's the There and Back Again one, I think.
Sweet.
Yeah.
There's tons of new Hobbit games, right? That's the thing. Since the IP, something happened to the IP.
So a couple years ago, Embracer Group purchased the right to Middle Earth Enterprise, or purchased Middle Earth Enterprises. At the time, Embracer Group owned Asmodee. Now those have now split up into different companies, but it was an internal benefit essentially for them to make games with that IP because they didn't have to pay someone else royalties for it. So, so that's why you've seen, Fate of the Fellowship, Duel for Middle Earth, the Fellowship of the Ring.
Trick taking.
Yeah, and so so there's a reason you're seeing a lot of those. Christoph says it's a roll and write with several scenarios. So that sounds cool. Kind of like Fellowship is a trick taking with several campaign.
Yeah, which is also, I mean, such a good game, right? Like, let's not leave that off our list of games I would like to play more of.
Yeah, no, I will say they have done a good job with all these games. They are they're IP. Some of them are reworks of other game systems, but they've done a good job on all of them.
Yeah.
Mark asks, are you familiar with speedruns? Do you think Vantage would be appear on a list of board games that could have speedruns? Susannah, are you familiar with speedruns? So a speedrun is something that generally happens in a video game where someone is seeing how fast they can do something. So oftentimes it's just complete the game. Sometimes it'll be like 100% the game. So like in Stardew Valley, an example might be how quickly in real life can you get to the end of year 2 having completed the community center. Something like that.
And you set the parameter so you know what your goal is and you're hyper focused on that.
Right. And then you would generally community would have here's a parameter that this community is using, and therefore you compare your speedruns to other people's speedruns. And
no, I don't think Vantage lends itself to that because like in Stardew Valley, there probably are a few different ways to do things, but there's pretty much like accepted ways of accomplishing this and that task. In Vantage, there are so many ways to accomplish your task that you wouldn't be comparing apples to apples. But maybe you could say, yeah, I'm going to do this mission. I'm going to set my stats on 3, and I'm going to, see if I can do it.
And the other thing is Vantage is, so like Stardew Valley is essentially a campaign game. Like if you're putting in board game terms, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're starting every day with what you've achieved.
Right. Versus Vantage is more of a roguelike game where you're resetting every time. You're not taking anything back with you if you lose or anything like that. And so like, yeah, you could do it with the same goals in mind, but I think it'd be tricky to, I think it'd be, we'll see what community does, but I agree with you that it would be tricky. Okay, Erica says, it's an SN release, not a Gen Con release, but she's looking forward to seeing what Sanctuary is all about, and if I like it as much as Ark Nova.
So excited for that, Erica. Yep. There's actual art, like animal art on the tiles, which I think is a big plus.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Like I've seen people trick out their Ark Nova copies with little animals. And so every time they fill an enclosure, they actually put that plastic animal on the enclosure, which is awesome. But this version of Ark Nova will add art to your enclosures.
That's really cool. Have you seen the what's the 3D Ark Nova thing they're doing?
No.
So it's going to be on GameFound. I don't think it's launched yet, but it's basically, from what I can tell, it's basically like the Terraforming Mars big box where they did all the plastic.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's like that for Ark Nova.
Oh.
Where it's like cool. You have all these 3D buildings, so like all the.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So. Yeah, all the cards that add the unique buildings, all those would be 3D, and your enclosures would be 3D and stuff like that.
Wow.
So
fun.
Sounds like a big box, but also a kind of a fun experience.
Yes, it does.
Yes. All right, it is 11 o'clock. Thank you all for joining us, and Jamie will be back next week with all the exciting Vantage news.
That's right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.